Hi, Monica.
Hello.
Well, I wanted to talk to you today because I had a friend ask about Whole30, and I really don't know much about it. And the person specifically asked me to compare Whole30 and keto, and you are one person I know that's done both.
I
So,
have. I have. Okay, so I have started recently with keto, and I had told you before I probably need to kick most of the dairy out of it. And what I had done a Whole30 4 years ago, and I felt really good. And the reason is in no small part to it having no dairy. So what you start with is basically uh, out of a plate size, you have a quarter protein, a quarter healthy fat, and half vegetables, and including non-starchies and berries. I think that's tops usually where they go with the fruit. So they allow sweet potatoes. They now allow white potatoes, but there are no rice, no grains, none of that. So there's no sweeteners, which on keto we can fudge a little bit, and we can use erythritol or stevia or any number of other things. And for Whole30, they really do not want you to use any sweeteners. And it really does help you get over the sugar craving to do that. The idea is that you just do it for 30 days, though. It's super. Ideally, you're having clean, grass-fed meats or free-range poultry, organic butter, organic vegetables, ideally, because it's meant to be 30 days, and then you start to add things in a week at a time after that.
okay.
Reintroduce and see which things bother you.
Okay. So I was under the impression before you just said it is that Whole30 was like, um, every week you did something different. So it's 30 days, a standard diet, and then you start adding different things to find out what the culprits are.
Yes, I think they have it the first, I cannot remember what they have it laid out as afterwards, but the first week of reintroduction is, where am I? Probably fruit.
Okay.
And then after that, maybe dairy, because different people are different. There's no real obsessing over, like in keto with the carbs specifically. You could have, if you wanted to, for reintroduction, you could have cheese.
Right.
You could have milk.
Okay.
And in keto, you can have cheese, but you don't do milk because milk has too many carbs for the idea.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, I don't know that either one is good or bad. It really is going to be, I know the science behind keto and I love it, but I completely understand why even someone who eats keto would occasionally stop and do a Whole30 because you can be keto and still rely on packaged convenience food. And the idea here really is sort of a cleanse, not exactly a cleanse, but sort of a cleanse, because you're focusing on whole foods, clean foods, and real food, not prepackaged anything. You would be coming up with plenty of spices and, interesting food. It's not just steamed vegetables and a steamed chicken.
Yeah. It actually sounds really good. So you could eat in a very traditional way, but you just have
Exactly.
certain foods that you can and can't
Right.
eat. And then there's
Instead
no
of having
sweet.
cream, you could have coconut cream.
Okay, so
And
you
there's,
don't have, oh, because it's no dairy, right?
right,
No
no
dairy.
dairy for that month.
Okay.
And a lot of people are fine with the sweet potato, maybe not every day. Maybe you don't have, but that might be for a lot of people the tiny, tiny sweet thing that helps them stick to it.
Right.
Helps them not completely feel like they've gone out on an island and are starving themselves with
Right.
this crazy food I don't normally eat. It was a nice little treat to me to have sweet potato with some butter and cinnamon. That
Right.
wasn't sugar cinnamon, just,
Right.
just a nice little, or berries with whipped coconut cream.
Okay.
That's
That's the treat.
reasonable. Yeah. And
Okay,
it's, yeah,
so like keto, I say like you can if you have like a little byline, it's like eat more fat, eat moderate protein, don't eat carbs or eat
right,
few carbs. And so
right.
what would you say like the byline for Whole30 is?
It's not all that different. I would probably say eat moderate clean protein, eat a good moderate amount of healthy non-dairy fats, and eat a lot of vegetables. A
Okay.
lot of vegetables. So a lot of times I think I've seen people who are on keto are super comfortable with cutting out their vegetables. And that isn't recommended, I'm sure, because the idea of the fiber helps with resetting your system.
Okay. So it's like a reset with good
It really
wholesome
is.
foods.
Yes.
So
Hmm.
if you did keto, sort of the Dr. Berg way, this would more approximate what
I
Whole30
think
is.
so. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. You wouldn't have butter. You could have ghee. I know, heartbreaking. Coconut
So you can have
oil.
ghee though on Whole30.
You can, yeah, because that
Oh,
has removed the dairy part of the butter.
yeah,
So
okay.
you can still do that. So I would have coconut oil, avocado oil, olive oil. Those are all really great
Okay.
to have too. And just not the dairy. And then
Yeah.
add that in when you're finished and see what it does, because that is a good one to get rid of, because generally speaking, it's inflammatory. So for some people, it can be even more inflammatory.
Right,
So to reintroduce it, then you know whether it bothers you and in what way it affects you.
right.
So you
Now,
can
they
pick
say 30 because they want to give you to give it a whole 30 days to give it a shot.
exactly.
Is there
Exactly.
anything that would prevent you from sticking with it for more than 30 days? Is that a health thing?
I don't think so, but that ideally, I know that isn't what they go for. Mine was a Whole45 because I felt like I needed it, and I was a little bit afraid to reintroduce foods because I had such a long-term sweet tooth problem. I was afraid to add too much in, but their concern was just that people would be going overboard with too few carbs.
Right.
And so everybody sees that one differently. But I
Yeah.
just think, if you can keep it a little more even, then it falls in with the everything in moderation, which does not work for everybody, but for a lot of people, moderation is okay. It's
Right.
an okay thing.
So did you find after you started adding things back that there were problematic foods for you?
They didn't have it as laid out for the reintroduction. So yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yep, for
You
sure.
found some problem spots.
I found some real problem spots. I foolishly went after my Whole45 to the Epcot Food and Wine Festival and had drinks all afternoon. And that was just a smack sugar right on,
Right.
a shoot right back into it. It was not how you're supposed to reintroduce, but
So
it
did that flip you? So did you flip right back into your old way of eating because of that?
pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
That was, yeah. And
Some people, I think it helps them like later. They say they make better decisions for a period.
exactly, yeah, exactly. And so my better decision after that is not to celebrate the end of my Whole30 by going to the Epcot Food and Wine Festival, because there would have been plenty of foods, but I had daiquiris and
You were like, I haven't had a daiquiri in 45
right,
days.
yeah,
Where
this
is it?
special. This is dragon fruit. When am I going to have this one again? Let's
Right.
do that. Well, it didn't end well. No, that was not a good idea.
Would you ever consider doing it again?
I absolutely would.
Yeah.
Yes. it is difficult, but as they said in their very first book, it isn't cancer. Okay. You don't have cancer. This is just eating well. How hard can that really be? Well, it can be hard, but if you plan, do some meal planning, maybe do some cooking ahead on the weekend so that your weekdays aren't so frazzled.
Right.
If you plan it out, that does help immensely so that you don't find yourself stuck with no options.
Right.
Oops, I'm all out of Whole30 food today. That is not where you want to find yourself, because you won't do well. So it just takes a plan, and the books and the website have all the information that you could need.
Nice. So what's your eating plan look like these days?
Well, these days, I mostly am doing intermittent fasting and keto with a little less dairy. So it's kind of a mash, but I usually do 24 or 18-6 in my eating. And I have occasionally added in a less than 42-hour fast. So I'll eat dinner around 5 or 6, say on a Tuesday, won't eat on a Wednesday, and then we'll eat again Thursday midday. And that is really, really pretty amazing. And the science behind that is pretty amazing too, with the regeneration and autophagy, and all of that is really smart.
What are you personally seeing as far as benefits from doing the longer fasts?
The longer fast, once you break through that I'm going to starve to death feeling that really isn't real, just have some broth or water, and it sounds terrible, but it really isn't. Once you break through that mind block that I'm going to starve, it feels good. It feels just cleansing in a not extreme sort of chemical way.
Right.
Because I definitely felt lighter, even if I wasn't really. I knew I was genuinely flushing everything, and I didn't have to worry about food.
Yeah, and your digestion, giving your digestion a little rest.
Exactly. Because there's not that much, I mean, you've got liquid mostly going through, and it's all fine. It needs a break. It definitely needs a break.
You're just giving your system a little break.
Right.
So you mentioned also 18-6, and so that's more of like a daily intermittent fasting. So can you explain what is 18-6, or we hear 16-8, or different ratios like that?
Everything I have heard on the subject of intermittent fasting is that it is wise to shorten your eating window. So I typically don't have breakfast, and I try to keep my eating within a window of 12 to 6, 1 to 7, or even tighter if I can. If I don't eat until 3, then keeping it in the 3 to 7 is a really good range for me, because then it doesn't overwhelm my body. I don't have insulin spikes trying to handle constant eating all day long. That made me tired. I know other people haven't necessarily experienced that, but when I would have breakfast or a snack, and then lunch and a snack, and then dinner, that made me exhausted, because my stomach was constantly hogging all of the blood in my body to take care of that. Yeah. And I couldn't focus. Right. I couldn't even focus. So having the short windows was really
so
helpful.
If you're eating, say on occasionally you're eating between 3 and 7, that's only 4 hours out of the 24 hours.
Right.
So you call that 20 and 4.
24. Yep.
18 and 6 would be like 1 to 7 or something like that. So yeah, I'm a fan of intermittent fasting. I really am.
I am too, and learning about how it can really rev up your metabolism to exercise while you're in a fasted state is kind of exciting too, because everybody needs that, no matter what size. It's really, really wonderful for your body to power up and be able to get through something where it couldn't necessarily before if it was busy digesting food.
Right.
It really, you keep thinking that you have to power up with some sort of snack before you go work out.
Yeah, I wonder if that, like, I mean, that's how I used to feel. But, you know, so that, and not that my body needed it, but I really felt like, oh my gosh, like I
Yes.
trained for a marathon once, and I gained weight on doing this because I
Yeah.
was petrified to go out before I ate, and I would have to have something in the middle of training. And it's like,
Hmm.
um, uh, anyway, it's very interesting. I don't know where the idea comes from, because now I exercise on an empty stomach and it feels good. Like
Right.
it feels
Exactly.
really good to do that.
Right. Because you only have so much blood and it can't all be focused on digesting food. And if you're exercising, then you need it where you're exercising.
Right.
So your muscles need to have access to it. It's exhausting to have all that going on at
Right.
once, but in a fasted state, your body can handle it better.
Yeah. And then, so how did you decide to do keto?
Well, I think I had just started reading about it again and figuring out, it was the science that started pulling me in and reading about autophagy, because I'm not young.
Yes, you are.
But I'll be 48 this year, and that's not old, but I was feeling old. And learning about the science of it was really, really exciting. So I like to be an experiment, and being my own science experiment helped. Hop right in. Let's test this theory out. Okay, I like this.
Right. And it does make sense.
It
Yeah.
does.
I remember the first time someone told me that they were under 20 carbs a day, and I was like,
I
what are
know.
you doing
How
that
can you
for?
live?
I mean, this was a couple of years ago, and she's like, yeah, it's not a problem. I'm like, what do you eat?
I know. How
So,
can you live? That
yeah.
seems dangerous.
Anyway, it's funny. It's funny how things kind of come around, but you know, it does make sense, because
Exactly.
people, when you take the history of mankind, people have eaten a lot of different ways, and we're in a really strange period of time where we do feel like we need to eat all the time,
Yes.
or consistently, like every couple of hours. That just
Right.
wasn't feasible for
And
people.
balanced.
Right,
A
which
little
also
bit of
wasn't
everything.
feasible.
Right.
I mean, this is silly, but I remember reading Little House on the in the Big Woods. That was the first time I was like, that's weird. They're eating fat all winter, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and,
Exactly.
smoked meat, and it just seemed rather unhealthy to me.
Where's the apple? Where's your salad?
Exactly.
Not
Anyway,
possible.
right. How did they live? And yet mankind marched on.
That's right. Exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
I really appreciate you taking the time to explain this. And any other thoughts before we
Not
sign off?
especially. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Monica. Bye.